very clean.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, your host, and this is the program that comes into your home on the first Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8 p.m. We're live here in Access Fort Wayne Studio A, downtown Fort Wayne, and at the Allen County Public Library. And by the title of the show, Speakers and Leaders, you can tell that that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. Most specifically, the Toastmaster organization. You see our old style banner behind me. It's a beautiful old banner. Now we have a new logo now. We have been rebranded, and so we're pretty happy about that. And one of these days, we're going to get a new banner to put up behind there, but the dineros haven't come in yet, so we're waiting for that. I'm here with a couple of friends of mine from the different Toastmaster clubs in the Fort Wayne area. And we feel so strongly about the organization that what we like to do is we like to come down here on Tuesday night, talk about what we do in Toastmasters, and give some presentations that actually help people want to come and join us. The two people I have with me this evening is Mr. Tom Haller. Tom is a member of not only the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, the Advanced Communicators, the Bob Lyman Club. He is also president of the Bob Lyman Parliamentary Chapter right now here in Fort Wayne, as well as a past area governor. He's past area governor for 24. Next to Tom sits a young lady who is very involved with Toastmasters and a very dear friend of ours, and one that is a stalwart visitor to this show, and her name is Patricia Knaebe. And she has served the past 2 years as Division B governor, so she is a very successful past Division B governor now, and the president of the Advanced Toastmaster Club. And she has some other duties that she will be telling you about a little later on this evening when she's up here giving her speech. And that's what Toastmasters is all about. The first thing that you hear of or you think of is that, well, they must go there and they must give speeches. But how is that done? It sounds like a mystery, actually. It really isn't, and once you become involved, you can see how well structured the organization is. So not only do we practice our club speeches and our presentations, throughout the year we get a chance to stretch our Toastmaster muscles, and when we do that, we have contests. We have evaluation contests where we figure out who is the very best evaluator. Well, we have contests for table topics. That's where you give your extemporaneous speeches in 1 or 2 minutes. We have the tall tales, and that's just exactly what it implies. And you can't imagine some of the stories that have been told in tall tales in Toastmasters. Of course, there's the International Speech Contest, and we're very proud of that right now, because one of our members here in Fort Wayne area in Division B is going all the way to Kuala Lumpur to compete in the International World Champion of Public Speaking for Toastmasters. That young lady's name is Janine Harold, and she's been giving her speeches throughout Toastmaster land here in Division B, and I believe down at Indianapolis too. And then, of course, last but not least, there is the humorous contest. And tonight, we're very pleased to have one of our members who is going to compete in the humorous speech contest representing the Advanced Speakers and Leaders. He's going to work out of the basic manual, project number 6, that's Vocal Variety, the Competent Communicator Manual. The title of his speech, and I'm going to give him a traditional Toastmasters speech contest evaluation, or introduction, excuse me. Tom Haller, not my kind of people. Not my kind of people. Tom Haller.
They are indeed not my kind of people. No, just not my kind of people at all. Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Wilkins, and especially everyone out there in TV land, I know it's not politically correct, but these are just not my kind of people. But to start at the beginning, a new store opened near us. They sent us coupons. Us being the wife and myself, being Americans, we were obviously required to go down and check it out. It is called the Green Grocery. I thought they meant green as in celery and kiwi, but they meant green as in earth-friendly. Now, had I known that, that would have been a warning. Let's be frank, I am not that green. The store is very, very green. Me, not so much. So we went down to the store, made our way into the restaurant part of it, and there were the thinnest people I have ever seen in my life. They were not Dave Wilkins thin. They were not Patricia Knaebe thin. They looked like they had been rescued at the last minute from a concentration camp. Then instead of being fed, and I might mention these were almost all women, not quite everybody, but mostly women. They were cleaned up, given what my wife assured me was very expensive haircuts. It made them look like medieval peasants, male peasants. Then they were taken to Rodeo Drive, and the very best of clothing was purchased for them. I didn't actually see it posted anywhere, but I take it they were big believers in you can't be too rich or too thin. Now, as I approached the where you order, I was surprised to find there was another universal aspect to them. I did leave out one important point. There was one major exception to this. There was a man behind the counter who looked so much like me that we could have traded places and nobody would have ever known. He was the token fat man. No question in my mind, definitely the token fat man. I was afraid that this would be all vegan, but when we got up there, they had meat offerings. Now, I should point out that in addition to this very thinness of theirs, they had another peculiarity. They were all having variations of the same conversation in small groups, but they all wanted to know what is a complete protein. Now, I thought I could help them. I know from complete proteins. Hamburger is a complete protein. Leg of lamb, fish, chicken, these are proteins. Fortunately, before I made a fool of myself, it was made clear to me that they were above this. They had evolved beyond this barbaric stage. They wouldn't have never eaten flesh. They wanted to know if you cooked your tofu in olive oil, was that a complete protein? If you mixed chickpeas in with your garbanzo beans, had you then achieved a complete protein? They were on their own there. We got up there, I thought, now is my chance to show that I have some interest in this, that I know something about it. Being relieved to find it wasn't vegan and they in fact had a chicken offering, I knew my wife would get the chicken. I asked if it was free-range chicken. I knew it would be. I thought that would ingratiate me. It was not taken well at all. Indeed, the woman who waited on me was irate. She was furious that it would cross my mind that it might be possible that she would be in a place that would deal with caged, beakless chickens. Indeed, I thought vegans were probably not allowed to snap people's heads off. But be that as it may, I, having years of Toastmaster experience of table topics, was responding with what I thought was a very reasonable comeback. I was going to ask her, did it seem better that some happy, free-range chicken leading the full, complete chicken life should give up its life for us, or some suicidically inclined caged bird? Before I got this completely out, my wife and I have been married for many decades, and as most of you who have been married a long time know, husbands and wives often have subtle, nonverbal communication techniques. My wife gave me a hard jab in the side with her elbow, thereby indicating that I needed a time out, that I had said enough for the time being. So we indeed got through the line. My wife knew what I wanted since I couldn't speak. I got a tuna fish and she got a chicken sandwich. As we got over to the restaurant part itself, I noticed, well, both of us noticed, there was an enterprising young man. There were a few children. Now, certainly nobody had more than one child, and most of them didn't have any children with them. But the children that were there were, if anything, thinner than the adults. There was one little girl who could have been the match girl. If she was going to play the part, she probably would have had to have changed out of her Christian Dior outfit, but she looked thin enough to have been the match girl. But one young man, who was not quite as thin as the others, was offering to take everybody's tray over to the compost pile. Took him a little longer than you might think to empty it. I looked at my wife and I said, you know that nothing's going in the compost pile, don't you? She said, we have bigger problems, at least I do. Do you see the way these kids are looking at us? I can't eat in front of these kids who are obviously starving to death. I said, well, shall we take our food home with us and leave? She said, no, we're going to leave it for him. Just indicate to the boy by hand motions that you're giving it to him, and then head briskly, don't run, but head briskly for the door. So I did. We did exactly that. The young man at this point lost his composure. He was no longer able to stay calm and walk to the compost pile. He fell upon it like a lion with its kill. The other youth moved in rapidly. By this time, parental units had caught on that there was a serious problem. I don't think by the time we escaped they understood the extent of the problem. They knew these kids were eating, which they didn't approve of. Don't think they realized that they were tasting flesh for the first time. I like to think it would be a new day in those houses, that there'll probably be no peace again until they get fed. The wife and I made a quick getaway. We went to the nearest McDonald's, where we had our double quarter pounders, a veritable field of fries, and a drum of a syrupy drink, which I assume was soda pop. There, we knew at last we were with our kind of people. Mr. Contest Master.
And now you want to introduce.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been all 5 minutes. I've forgotten how we were doing things today. At this point, if you would help me welcome the lovely Patricia Knaebe. I'm not sure what exactly her speech title is, but we do know from past experience it will be wonderful. She is a very busy young woman, although she's no longer the highly successful district governor. She's the highly successful division governor. She's the highly successful past division governor, and she has new areas of responsibility. And she, perhaps, if we're lucky and very good, behave ourselves, will tell us all about them. Help me welcome Patricia Knaebe.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, Toastmasters at home, and most honored guests. It was my great privilege and pleasure to lead this division for the last 2 years. There was a lot of work involved. There were a lot of team members who helped out, and we had a successful run of it. I look forward to what's going to happen in the division this year with our new division governor and the new area governors that have come in. I had a mixed feeling about leaving the division governorship simply because it consumed so much of my life for 2 years. I didn't know how I was going to fill my time, and frankly, letting go of something I had nurtured for 2 years was a little difficult for me. But as luck would have it, I was at the spring conference this past year, and I was sitting in a breakout session when one of the top 3 came over to me and sat down. Now, the top 3 are the 3 district leaders. There is the district governor, there is the lieutenant governor of education and training, and there is the lieutenant governor of marketing. The one of the top 3 who came over to accost me was the lieutenant governor of education and training. She sat down and she said, "Oh, Patricia, I've been looking for you." And I said, "Oh, Lucy, I've been looking for you." And we exchanged pleasantries and we had a very nice conversation. And she said, "Why have you been looking for me?" I said, "Well, Lucy, I was thinking about TLI, Toastmaster Leader Institute, that's coming up in June, and I have an idea for a breakout session." She said, "You do? What is it?" And I said, "We need to teach people how to put on a speechcraft." Because that's one thing we did in Division B so successfully last year. Our membership team put together a speechcraft event and did a wonderful job with it. 7 out of the then 14 clubs in the division participated, and we had a wonderful experience with it, and we had some very enthusiastic participants. And I thought if we as Division B could carry this message forward to the other divisions within the district, why, there might be many more speechcrafts all over northern Kentucky and Indiana. Lucy liked the idea, and she said, "Let's talk about that further. But here's an idea for you. How would you like to be my education dean?" And I said, "Education dean? What would I do? What is that?" She said, "You would help me put together the education programs for the conferences, both the spring and the fall conference, for Toastmasters Leadership Institute, both the winter and the summer events, and any training events in between." And I thought about it. And I said, "Lucy, give me a few minutes to think about this, please, because I'm a little blindsided by this. It sounds exciting, and I'm thrilled that you picked me, but let me think about this for a few minutes." She said, "Take all the time you want. Get back to me when you want." And it's funny that she would ask me to do that, because just as we were wrapping up the spring conference, one of the things that we do, we have a ceremonial parade, if you will, into the Saturday morning sessions. And as I was standing there with my Division B banner, I thought to myself, this is the last time I'm going to be doing this. And I got a little sad about it. And then a thought entered my head. And that thought had a name attached to it, and that name is Bob Norris. I remembered, for some reason, I remembered a conversation that Bob Norris and I had had. And I told him I was not ready to become one of the top 3. I didn't really have the time in my schedule to devote to that type of responsibility. And he said to me, he said, "Patricia, you know, there are a lot more things you can do at the district level to help the district. You don't just have to be a top 3 person. You can do other things." And as I was standing there waiting to enter the room with the Division B flag, that conversation came back to me. And then Lucy approached me to be her education dean. And as I said, I was very thrilled and excited about the fact that she would choose me out of the many candidates she probably had. And then I thought of Bob's conversation and his words to me again. And I said to Lucy, I said, "You know, Lucy, I don't think I need to think about this." I said, "This appeals to my critical thinking skills. It appeals to the analytical side of me and my willingness to problem solve." I'm not going to say my ability, but my willingness to get in there and problem solve. So I will do it. I will be the district education dean and work with you to bring valuable education tools to our district. And she looked at me, she got very excited. She said, "You'll do it, you'll do it." I said, "Yes, I will do this." She said, "I was waiting to hear the but." I said, "Lucy, there is no but. I will do this for you." And so I am pleased and thrilled and excited to this year, not only continuing with attending division level activities such as contests, membership team, and also helping with Speechcraft again, but I am excited and thrilled to be the education dean for the district and working with Lucy Nixon, our Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training. And now, Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He is speaking from the Competent Communicator Manual, which is the basic manual. It is project number 9, Persuade with Power. His goal is to convince you at home, our wonderful viewers, to join a Toastmasters club, or at least visit one and see what we're all about and what we do. With the title of Come Join Us, please welcome Dave Wilkins.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Yes, indeed. Come and join us. You know, the Orientals have an old saying that goes something like this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, we like to think in Toastmasters that we are the teachers, but we have to round up the students to get them to come in. If you've been following the presentation that was just given by Patricia and also by Tom, his very funny speech, you'll see that there's a lot going on in a Toastmaster session as well as beyond the club in the district as a whole. And being education dean has to be a challenge for this young lady. But I'm telling you, over the last 2 years, when she organized speech contests, everything went exactly the way it was supposed to. When you go to a contest and you're not really aware, you just see how smoothly and seamless it happens. And it doesn't really happen that way. It has to be put together. It has to be thought out. It has to be organized. You have to delegate. And you did a fabulous job of that. You used great area governors. Tom Haller, you were an essential area governor. You were always the person who introduced Patricia. You really made the whole thing come together at the very beginning and at the end. And when Patricia couldn't be there, you stepped up and took the job. It made the whole evening look great, looked easy. But I'm really talking to you folks at home. Why would you want to get up off of your duff, go outside, drive to a Toastmaster meeting, and sit down at a table and listen to other people give speeches? Why would you want to do that? Especially because maybe something happened back in grade school or high school. I remember in grade school I had to give an oral book report. Now, I was not exactly shy, but I was not one to want to stand up in front of the class to give a report. I was hampered by 2 things, really. One of them was that I was being bullied by another kid, and number 2, I really hadn't read the book that I was supposed to be giving the book report on. So you can imagine that this kind of stuck with me, and it did indeed for years and years and years, because I vowed then I'd never get up in front of a group again. And then that's a paradigm that you put in front of you and say, I will never do so-and-so, and then of course you never do. Well, if you've had an experience like that in high school or grade school where you thought you were being laughed at or you stuttered and stammered in front of the class, our organization can and will help you. And we do it in a fun, non-threatening manner. But we can't come to your home and grab you by the collar and pull you in. You have to make that first step of faith yourself. You have to be willing to walk into a Toastmasters meeting. And if you're on the internet, most people are, all you have to go is to Toastmasters International, type in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and a whole list of clubs will come up. There are clubs that meet in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening. There are clubs where sometimes a dinner is incorporated part of it. Some of them are where you might have just a snack before a meal. Some of them are just cold, hard meetings where you go and give your speeches and go home. But whatever one you find, you will find very kind, very caring people who want what is best for you. The late Bill Cartwright, who was a close friend of ours at Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, said on more than one occasion, where else can you go in life and find a group of people who are dedicated to your personal self-improvement. A Toastmaster meeting is that kind of a session because you receive feedback in the form of a positive evaluation. None of the, you did this wrong, or that's no good, or you shouldn't have done that, and why did you say that? None of that. It's friendly, it's positive. You're given helpful suggestions on what you can do better, and then also patted on the back for what you did very well. And that reinforcement through the evaluation is what makes you grow. It changes every aspect of your life, not only the fact that it would work if you had to get up and give speeches at work. It would also work if you had to meet with your boss or give an extemporaneous speech. Any of those situations would be what can be improved by Toastmasters, and will be just by the mere fact that you're going there and being around people who are positive, who are upbeat, who give you thoughts to think that you hadn't probably thought before. A lady that's no longer with us is Vivian Gordon, and she said that through the word of the week, you actually increase your vocabulary by 52 words a year. By using those words, you become more erudite. You become more clear in what you say and how you say it. And also with Toastmasters, because everything is timed, you don't waste time. You don't stray from the subject. You stay on point. You talk about what you have to say, and you sit down. And finally, someone said that it was like a college course, because each week you hear someone give a presentation, usually 2 or 3 presentations on various and sundry topics that you feel good about, that they feel good about, and they're enthused. So when they're enthused, they make you enthused, and you're exposed to new ideas and new thoughts. And all of this just by going to a Toastmasters meeting. I can tell you that in 1985, I went to my first meeting, and I, not being a joiner, was never going to go back. But I thought, oh, that was pretty good. I'll go next week. And then I went to the 3rd week and the 4th week. And then I found out that I didn't know everything, that I was actually learning from everybody who was around me. And not only that, they were good people. They were Christian people. And every club I went to always began each meeting with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. And I remember telling my wife after that very first meeting, you know, any organization that begins with an invocation and pledge of allegiance, that's an organization that I could belong to. So I encourage you to invite yourself to a Toastmaster club just to see what we do. And if you like what you see, we encourage you to join. The fees are nominal. It's very easy within one's grasp. Please come and join a Toastmaster meeting, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Haller. You're okay. I'm just going to sit down, and then I think we'll just do the round-robin evaluations and then go into a break. Okay? So I'm going to scoot over here, and let's see who spoke first. You did, Tom. Oh, not my people. Yeah, I was your evaluator, Tom. I've heard the speech before. I must say you are making great strides with it, and you're having fun with it, and I think that's one of the important things. I'm wondering, at some point, you know, you are obviously a big fellow. At some point, could you pass the and lean so that your tummy even sticks out further? That would be a humorous thing to do. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I'm not sure I agree, but
you don't think
I think I may have reached maximum visibility here.
Okay.
But I'll consider that. Thank you.
Okay. Also, you might consider having some pictures of either French fries or perhaps a dead chicken hanging up by a street. Some pictures of that sort would always add to it. Maybe a food chart of some sort, fake or otherwise, but just something to be human. You know. I love the humor and the timing. Your timing is just superb. I've really enjoyed your speech, and I think you're going to go far in the humorous contest with it. So good luck. Thank you, Tom. And Patricia was next. So you evaluated Patricia?
Yes. Well, fellow Mr. Toastmaster, audience, and particularly Patricia, excellent job. What's up for this year? Very straightforward, very clear answers, very informative. Perhaps it would help to be a Toastmaster. If you're not a Toastmaster, maybe it wasn't that informative, but Dave and I are. It was very informative to us. And I know that Patricia is aware of this because she commented on it before she started. Probably not the absolutely epitome of the best choice of a speech for vocal variety. Right. There is some limit to what you can do with this and appear reasonable, and Patricia always appears reasonable. But, it was certainly satisfactory. I think all the range that was appropriate was done. Just an overall excellent job, as is so very, very often the case with Patricia's speeches. Thank you, and as always, I look anxiously forward to your next speech.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you. And I believe I was the last speaker, and I think you did the evaluation, Patricia?
I did the evaluation, Dave, last but not least. Speech number 9, Persuade with Power. The speech title is Come Join Us. And this speech is to show emotional support or give an emotional appeal and motivate others to make changes according to that appeal. Did the speaker project sincerity and conviction? I think absolutely you did. You were a very credible source for Toastmasters, Dave, and you made that clear to us throughout the speech. You did put the audience first. You talked about what was in it for the audience as far as the skills they could gain, the knowledge they could gain, and the wonderful camaraderie that exists in a club. You were very logical. You used facts about Toastmasters. You inflected wonderful emotion into the speech, and the speech was very well organized. The next evaluation portion is, did the speaker's body language and vocal variety contribute to the message? Well, we have limited space for movement up here. So had there been more space, I know you would have used it, but you did have good vocal variety and you did persuade people to accept your point of view. I think one thing you might have done differently is start your speech with giving us your Toastmaster credits, because you have many. You've been a district leader and you have been a Toastmaster for many years. You did tell us a little bit about that in the middle of the speech. However, to start with that and explain, this is why I know Toastmasters is so valuable.
Okay.
And start with your credits and then bring your personal story in about elementary school, and I think it was a beautifully crafted speech. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, thank you very much, Patricia. And now I believe we're going to take a little bit of a break, switch gears, and come back and begin the parliamentary half.
And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer. And he says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Farmer says, doctor says, chicken says.
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club can give you that edge. a low-cost learning experience for men and women, Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
And welcome back to the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, still your host, standing here talking about leadership and communication. And remember, folks, this is a live, interactive show. That number is 422-3902. We have operators standing by. We'd like to take your calls, your comments, or your questions about either Toastmasters or, in this case, coming up now, leadership. And the leadership portion of this is revolving around a group here in Fort Wayne called the Bob Lyman chapter of the American Institute of Parliamentarians. We meet once a month on the third Mondays here in the library, and we meet in the Globe Room. That's that beautiful, round, odd-shaped room that's just behind the great big globe when you come in the entrance from the basement. And we meet from 6:30 until 8 o'clock on the first Monday of the month. And we would love to have you come and visit us. Third Monday. That's right. I said that just to see if anybody was listening, Tom. Yeah, the third Monday of the month. Because the Speakers and Leaders Club, that's the one that meets on the first Monday of the month. So definitely the third Monday of the month from 6:30 to 8 in the library. We have a small group, but very dedicated to the study of Robert's Rules of Order. Now, tonight, we are privileged to have the president of that local chapter, Mr. Tom Haller, and he is not only the president there, he's the vice president of membership of the Advanced Speakers and Leaders Toastmaster Club and past Area 24 governor. Tonight, he's working from his basic manual, project number 4, How to Say It, the basics about parliamentary procedure. Please welcome Mr. Tom Haller.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. It is indeed a great pleasure to be here, and this would be a speech which I would consider about ideal to generate a phone call. So if you have a question that comes up relative to this, do feel free to call us. We would look forward to that and do our very best to answer your question. I wanted to discuss tonight the very basics you would need for a meeting. Perhaps your homeowners association is no longer active and you're thinking of starting that up again. Maybe you want to have a hot rod club. A chess club really makes no difference. How do you get started? What is the minimum you need? There are probably as many answers as there are situations, and I wouldn't doubt that Mr. Wilkins or even Patricia might have a few insights they would wish to share with you later. But and now I'm not so much speaking of taking over for somebody who's going to be out for a week from a long-established club, but just a brand new thing. What do you need? Well, you need someone to chair the meeting. You need a separate person to be the secretary. You need 2 different people. In my mind, it would be better if they were not husband and wife, because they're a check and a balance to each other. So you need to have these 2 people, plus you'll need a few other people at any point in the meeting, But at any rate, you need these two people, one coming prepared to take notes and the other prepared to lead the discussions that will naturally follow. Now, you will also need an agenda. I cannot overemphasize that. I could spend the rest of my time saying, agenda, agenda! You would need to have an agenda, or it will not be a successful meeting. I would strongly encourage you to study the matter on the internet and books that are written for the purpose, and just develop an agenda which will be suitable for what you want to accomplish. Beyond that, you need to have some very specific goals for this meeting. You really want to get to the heart of the matter, the crux of the matter, make sure that the main points are covered. I would also strongly recommend that you do business by way of making motions. Sure, particularly if it's an organizational meeting, you could just sit around and talk about it. I hope you don't bother to invite me for that if you do that, but you could do that. The problem is, after several hours, you probably won't have accomplished anything. The way you accomplish things is to follow the parliamentary procedure, and that is for somebody to say, I move that we do this. Typically, somebody will second it. Nobody seconds it, that's a pretty strong indication that there's no general interest. So I would then just move on to the next item. But assuming there's interest, you want to be sure and follow a couple of basic things. We're not doing the whole deal and everything that might ever come up. You will want to have the person that made the motion speak to it first. And it would be good to go back and forth. Ask if there's somebody who has a difference of opinion with that. Go back and forth. Everybody gets to speak before anybody speaks twice. So just following these basic things, be sure and direct all the questions to the chair, not to each other. Therein lies the way to madness and brawls. And keep everything civil. If the person speaking is a horse-faced liar, that's unfortunate, but it doesn't need to be brought up at this time. Just, don't even bother with that. If there's not goodwill, it's probably not going to work. So direct all of your comments through the chairperson and let them keep everything calm. The chairperson needs to be calm and even-handed. He probably, or she, could just as easily be a woman, may have opinions on what's happening, but keep those to yourselves if you're the chair. Be very clear that everything is being fair and above board. Remember, it is a democracy. In the end, the majority will win. The rights of the minority are protected, and they get to give their side of the story. They can try to become the majority, but in the end, the majority will win. Now, eventually, with any luck at all, you'll need to take a vote. Most votes will be verbal votes. You will want to ask all those in favor, say yes. All those in favor say no. Don't do the same sign thing. It's not good for them. But be sure that you do the same approach for everybody. I have seen people ask for those in favor to say yes, those opposed to raise their hand. No, don't do that. Also, the person conducting, if at all possible, should be standing and should be, regardless of whether they're standing or not, visible. Now, that doesn't mean people that are handicapped or in wheelchairs can't chair meetings. Of course they can. But they need to be visible to everybody. I was once at a meeting, and this is not common, literally once I was at a meeting where the person chairing the meeting was invisible to me. She was not able to stand up where everybody could see her, and I couldn't see her where she was sitting. So she was attempting, and attempting would be the correct word, to run the meeting from a hidden sitting position. That is not only inefficient, it is outright spooky and off-putting. So make yourself clearly visible. I would suggest, now Mr. Wilkins may take exception to this, if you're at all familiar with parliamentary procedure, by all means do amendments to the motions. I'm thinking for this very basic meeting, it might be better if you just simply stayed with the main motion. If the decision is made to paint the room green instead of having an amendment to make it chartreuse green or Kelly green, have that as a separate motion, just solely for the sake of keeping things simple. But the basic things, in addition to goodwill, are to have an agenda, to have a chairman, and to have a secretary. There's a lot more to it. You can study the matter for years and never have it completely resolved in your mind. And there are even several important things that have not been touched on. But I think if you stay with this basic approach, you will be all right, at least for your first couple organizational meetings. In the meantime, you can get a copy of Robert's Rules of Order and come visit us at our club, where we would be happy to work with you. Mr. Wilkins.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I don't know how I can add anything to what you said. This is the book that Tom is discussing. It's the current issue of Robert's Rules of Order. It contains the grand number of like 716 pages. So if you want to lead a meeting, all you have to do is just know everything that's in here, and you're good to go. And I'd like to tell you I've read this book from cover to cover. I'd like to tell you that, but I'd be lying. This is more of a reference book. It's sort of the Chilton's manual for running a meeting instead of repairing a car. This tells you what you need to know, when you need to know it, by extensive use of your index. So Robert's Rules is a great book to have. One of the fraternal organizations that I belong to, Tom, they get around the issue of having amendments to main motions. What they do is they simply have the maker of the main motion withdraw it. And then they start over with a new main motion, which they either pass or fail. So that's kind of an inefficient way of doing things, but by golly, it works. So if you have Robert's Rules of Order and a group of people and the willingness to be an organization, then you can indeed form an association or a group. Now, perhaps your association is already formed. Perhaps you're going to meetings and you're not sure that they're being run properly. Maybe you ought to come to us some evening and talk to us about it, and we can help direct you towards what would be the proper thing to do. Our parliamentary society has on more than one occasion looked at the bylaws of organizations and advised people as to what can or cannot be done, or what should or should not be done. And it's an enjoyable thing to have a parliamentary group that can help you as we help ourselves. And so parliamentary procedure is really the way to go. As I mentioned, we meet on the third Monday of the month in the Globe Room here in the library. And we are looking to begin being a part of the National Association of Parliamentarians, and that is the national organization that does recognize Robert's Rules as a primary source of leadership, the one that's been around since 1876. Written by a man named Henry Martin Robert. And I know we have only a few minutes left. What do we have here left here? About 12 minutes. Yeah. Do we want to do a round-robin discussion at the table about Robert's Rules, and maybe you might have some questions? Patricia, you might have some questions. Would that be okay to your mind, sir?
Sure.
All right, okay.
You are our leader. We follow where you go.
Okay. All right. Well, I are going to go sit down, as that's what I'm going to do, Mr. Chairman. So when we have Robert's Rules as our authority, and we have a club meeting, what we do is we study some aspect or some particular area, and many times that area that we're studying that particular night is based upon perhaps questions that have come up either in other organizations or people have called us. And like we had one lady called from a neighborhood association, and she wanted to know what was going on. We looked at her bylaws. Do you remember that, Tom?
I do remember that. It was hard to forget. It was
Yes.
a little hard to put your mind around that.
It really was. But their bylaws were their bylaws. And so, so have you had a lot of experience with leadership skills using Robert's rules, or just you use common sense?
I usually use common sense. However, I'm trying to get a little bit more in tune with Robert's Rules of Order because I know to run a professional meeting and run a meeting the right way, you need to use them.
Yes. Well, I know Tom has been your mentor
He has.
on more than one occasion, and has done an excellent job. And you're getting what I would call on the job training.
I am
You're
getting on the job
learning
training.
by doing.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so do you have any areas of concern that you would like to know more about that we could help you with, perhaps?
I think probably some of my areas of concern would be when you have a motion and you add another piece to that motion.
An amendment?
An amendment to that motion.
And so, do you know how to handle that?
Not very well, no.
Okay. Well,
I'd probably take it off the table and bring in a new motion.
actually, for my fraternal organization that I belong to, that works quite well. And if you wanted to be gutsy enough as the leader, say, well, I think that amendment's pretty good, but let's get rid of that first motion. Would you want to withdraw that? And the only person that can withdraw it is the maker of the motion. And it has to be done with the permission of the group. So you would say, if there's no objection, we'll let Madam X withdraw her motion to paint the room chartreuse, and we'll start over with Mr. Green's motion to paint the room blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that would work. That's not the best way, but one of the things that happens is when you have a motion and then you have an amendment and you have another amendment, the chairman will lose track of which one we're going to be dealing with. And, of course, in America, the notion is first come, first served. So we can take care of the main motion, then we take care. And that's wrong. It's last in, first out, because what you're doing is you're stacking these things one on top of another. So you have to dispense with the most recent one, yay or nay. Then you have to dispense with the next one, yay or nay, and then finally get back to your main motion. So you would treat amendments just like a main motion. They have to be seconded, they have to be discussed, and they have to be voted upon. So does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. And you can only have two amendments. That is, you can have an amendment to the main motion, and then you can have an amendment to the amendment, and you're done. That's as far as it
You
goes.
can't have any more amendments.
And that can be where the secretary comes in very nicely. She should be keeping track of these things, and you could have her repeat back what the motion, she or he should repeat.
Yeah, you can, as leader, use your secretary. Will the secretary please read back the motion as stated by the maker, blah, 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 And then you say, are you ready to vote? And then you go ahead and vote on that. So actually, and that's what you made, the point that you made when you're starting a mass meeting, a first meeting of an organization, a startup meeting, you got to have a chairman and you've got to have a secretary. You've got to have those two because they work in tandem with one another. One to get things done and the other to record what was done. And this is something for secretaries out there, if they're out there. Do not write down what was said. Only write down what was done. And I watched a school board meeting for either one of the outlying districts, and one of the speakers wanted his very words recorded exactly.
Oh my.
And I thought, that's not quite the way to do it. What you want to do is you want to just record what was done, not what was said. We're down to the last 3 minutes, and Bob used to say, let's give you your 1 minute Boy Scout minute. So do you have anything final you'd like to say to the group tonight?
Come join us at the Red Cross Club. We meet every Tuesday at noon. It is a club that is open to the public, and we welcome guests any meeting, anytime.
Okay. And Mr. Tom, how about you?
I will then put the plug in for the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters. We meet every Thursday night. We're a small, we're a highly successful club, which usually gets all kinds of awards. We meet at Ivy Tech. It's a very good place to meet. We have the latest in communications equipment, so we're equipped to help you with just about any kind of speech you might want to give.
Thank you, Tom. And I'll put in a plug for the Bearfield Toastmasters. It meets on Tuesday night, right now, right this minute, at the Penguin Point on the south side of Fort Wayne. Best club on the south side of Fort Wayne is Bearfield Toastmasters. And while I'm sitting here, I'd like to say some thank yous to our camera operators tonight. We have Robert Boyd, Don Rizwan, and Marty Stern. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for doing a good job. Give them a hand. Our audio technician tonight has been Joseph Lawrence. Joseph, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have Dennis Osborne in the booth, and also we have Norm Compton in there tonight. Thank you guys for getting us on the air. We also want to thank the Allen County Public Library and Access Fort Wayne for allowing us to do this. We have our next program, our next show will be on the day after Labor Day, September 2nd, and it will be a special meeting of the Toastmaster Club speakers and leaders. They're all going to be here, and they're going to do a live Toastmaster meeting. Guys, thank you for being here. Folks, thank you, and God bless, and may all your meetings be fair and productive. Good night.